Hi everybody, I'm here to do something a little different. We're going to make a dragonfly bead, but this is going to be in two parts. So this is the first part because it's a little lengthy. I'm going to explain how I made the dragonfly bead that you saw in the picture. The first thing I did was make this really experimental kind of a fat stringer. In the video or the picture, you'll see as the bead surface moves around, the wings look kind of sparkly. And I'll explain how I did that. I used a rod of clear glass and some pearlescent mica powder. I've had this a really long time, and it's in a glass jar, so I do not pour it in a separate container to use it. The other reason I'm explaining this rather than demoing it is I really like to wear this Darth Vader mask, I call it, when I use the mica powder. And usually when I demo, I do not run my ventilation system. It's kind of loud. So that's the other reason why I'm explaining this. So you can see it's really sparkly, it's really pretty. And all I do is take a clear rod of glass, heat up about an inch worth, maybe an inch and a half. And I use this glass jar just since it's the hot glass isn't in there really long, and this is really thick glass. I kind of give the jar a little shake and poke the warmed glass rod in there and give it a roll around so it gives a good coating, about an inch worth. And then I'll take another clear glass rod and without putting heat directly on the mica powder, I'll heat up the second glass rod and swipe down the mica flakes, rotating, going back in the heat and putting heat only where I've already put another clear layer of glass. So this isn't really going in the flame. I'm heating only the the clear glass rod and swiping it down. And I go all the way around, and then I'll pick up my parallel mashers. And while I'm facing the glass towards me, I will make this smoother. So I'm going to point it up this way so you can see what I'm doing. So once I've got this entirely encased, the area with the mica powder on it, a good encasement, I will mash it and give it a little turn. Mash it and give it a little turn. I'll continue to do this all the way around until that's smooth. And I'm going back in the heat periodically, because it doesn't do much good to mash it if the glass isn't going to move. Just when you use your parallel mashers, always be able to see what you're mashing. So then once I've got that all done, that first layer of mica powder, I'll heat this area all the way around, stick it back in a second time, give it a little jiggle, make sure it's good and thickly coated. And then I'll take the clear glass rod and do the same thing. I'll encase the whole thing without putting that second layer of mica powder in the flame, but heating the glass rod and just swiping down to cover all the mica powder and make sure it's covered really well. And then I'll get my parallel mashers again and do the mash, turn, heat a little, mash, turn, heat a little, till I've gone all the way around and smoothed that off. It's a little fat, so I will then get my clear rod and heat the tip of this and make a Maria on the end, so it's like a flat little paddle. I'll stick it to the end of that big, fat, sparkly glass and heat it and pull gently. So I want a fatter stringer because I'm going to make the wings of the dragonfly with this. Yesterday I was playing around this up and put it out of the way. Yesterday I was playing around and I thought, gee whiz, wouldn't it be really sparkly if there were some mica flakes in there? And I have some clear, not clear, like iridescent sparkly flakes that are a little smaller than this. This is 1 to 3 millimeters I got from Halico Glass. But I couldn't find it, so what the heck? Let's see if the gold will work. I did the same thing, but as I did with the mica powder, but I'm not sure it's going to work, because even though I encased it well, when I pulled it, there's little, oops, and look, that keeps happening. That's not a good sign. But there's a little bit of mica flakes showing through when I stretched it out. So I don't know if using this will work, but I'll try it later today and see if it works. Here we go, part 2 of the Dragonfly bead. I'm going to make this base bead very normal, and that way it would be more inclined for a beginner or someone who maybe needs a little extra practice. So while I'm preheating this mandrel, I will go over the colors. This base bead is a color called Carmelo. I'm not sure they make it anymore, but it's what I had in a nice brown. Anything, any base bead that you care to make would work. It would really highlight the dragonfly on top. So I'm using a 3/32 mandrel, dipped in bead release once. And looks like Carmelo melts pretty slowly. The other colors you'll need is black, a fat stringer of black, the clear that we pulled the fat stringers that were made in the previous part of this video, where we added mica, not mica flakes, mica powder in with clear. And then a double helix color. I used Calypso. So that's pretty easy as colors go. So I'm making not a huge base bead, but one a little bit bigger. Looks like I've nicked my bead release too. I smacked it against one of the lights. We'll see if it holds. But here's a little tip. If you feel like you have a crack with your bead release, cover it with glass and it'll hold. As long as you hold your breath and keep your fingers crossed. I'm gonna wait and try to work it without putting glass over what I think might crack. The only other tool you're gonna need, other than a marver, I use a stump shaper, I really like it, is a parallel masher. And depending upon the size bead you make, you could, if you make a small bead, you can use that little parallel masher. I'm gonna probably use my big one. So I'm just adding a little bit of glass here because whenever you flatten a bead, you need to have a little more glass than you think you're gonna need. Because you don't want to mash it so thin that the base bead will break. Okay, and after I finish using a glass rod, I like to roll it on my marver somewhere just to make a nice clean edge. Makes it nicer when you go to heat it again. You don't have a big glob or a gather on the end there. I can see I've got some air bubbles in there. Phooey, I guess this is going to really be a learning experience. They're not too big, but I can show you how to get rid of them. You don't want big air bubbles. I'm just going to heat up the plot where it is, give it a squeeze, make it come to the surface, and it pops. Now I'll just round it out, marver it a little bit until it gets into a slight barrel shape so that I'll have a nice flat surface when I smash. I'll have a nice good sized surface to put this dragonfly on. So there's my slightly barrel shaped bead. The hole's not quite in the middle. I think I can get it there. And then I'm going to do the edges just a little bit so that it'll look more like an oval when it's smashed instead of a boxy base bead. Then I will heat it again and get my parallel mashers ready. It's a little bit wider, so I'm going from left to right, so I get a nice even glow everywhere. Then so I can see what I'm mashing, I'll give it a little bit of a mash. That's a good size. I think I'll leave it there. Let me put these down. Just getting rid of the tool marks. Ah, bug! Die, bug. Sorry. Let's get rid of him. That's kind of gross. Okay, Carmelo is kind of droopy. Okay, got your basic base bead. Now here's my double helix color. Here's a fat stringer in black to make the body. The double helix is for the head. The fat stringers with the mica powder in it. And the clear for the eyeballs. So first I'm going to put the wings. Whoops, too fast. I'm just keeping my bead warm out in the flame and just putting this fat stringer in the flame. Warm it up a little bit. I'm gonna see which way I want these wings to go. So when I put the tail on, a left to right movement is easier for me. So I'm gonna put the wings on the upper third. Jeepers, that's getting hot. I need to get some pliers to hold this. Heating the back a little bit so it doesn't get too cold. I think I'm gonna use this little sharp pointy to bring these wings together just a little bit here. Then I'll get the fat stringer for the body. You know what? I think I'm going to hold it now that I've put it in the flame. I think I'm going to hold it. So I want to place the head right about here. So I'm going to start the body right about here. I think I like it a little bit thicker. I'm just putting another layer. Then I'll take my double helix. You know what? I'm going to push that down and over just a little. There we go. Oh, and my ever protective dog is outside. Sorry. I keep telling him when I'm going to video something and he just forgets. So I'm going to make the head kind of a good sized dollop here. Not quite that big though. There we go. I'm going to lean it forward just a little bit, so I used heat and gravity just to make it fall in the direction I want it to. I'm going to turn down my oxygen. And I'll put 2 dots of clear. For the eyeballs. I'm going to take my trusty razor blade here and put just a little bit of, just just a little slice in these wings. I'm gonna pull them out to a little bit of a point too. Make sure they're nice and secured. And maybe leave some more. Oh, phooey. Well, that's why we have tweezers. Never put your metal tools in the flame, right? If you do, put them in the water really quickly. So there is the Dragonfly bead. I'm going to turn off my torch and show you the other base bead I made. Let me put this one in the kiln. There's a picture of a finished dragonfly, or maybe there's a little video if Kelly can join that in. Let me put this one in the kiln. And I'll be right back. Okay. So, this is the first base bead I made, and it's got much more time consuming, and it's got a little bit more technique experience, a lot of encasing. So this base bead, I wanted to look very organic and kind of dirty, like a rock. Like this is something that's kind of been beat up in the world a little bit. And then all of a sudden this pretty dragonfly just decides to light on it and brightens up the whole thing. So this base bead was made with an ivory, dark ivory base. And it was encased with a very pale, oh shoot, where is it? It was encased with a very pale brown. It's the lightest brown that you can have, even lighter than this one. And I had it right here, but here it is. No, that's not it. I'll take a picture of it at the end. So, dark ivory, encased, and then I rolled it in some silvered shards. I'm sorry, I do not know what color this is. It just says silvered caramel, but I've had this so long. You can use any color. Silvered is nice. It reacts with the ivory. Then I placed flowers. You can see little 3-point flowers on the surface using white. And I put a dot in the center using a darker topaz, transparent topaz, right in the center, because I wanted it to look darker right in the center. Then I used a sharp pointy. I poked a hole. I encased the whole thing in clear and then smashed it. I hope you liked these 2 different versions of the Dragonfly bead. Give them a try. Put them on our Facebook page. I appreciate your watching again. Till next time, bye.